Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live. I am your host, Viz, and tonight we have special guest Harrison Zhu with us. Harrison, thank you for being our guest. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. And I've been looking over your resume, and you have done a lot of stuff, and it goes back well over 12 years. So tell us how it all started for you.
I grew up in Vancouver. I did what, most kids do. They do like theater growing up. And one day for a business class, I actually interviewed a talent agent and tried to learn more about the business side of the industry. And through that, he was like, it seems like you actually want to be an actor. With that advice, I took acting classes, I got an agent, and my first ever role was in this TV series called V,
Which
where
I
I
love, by the way.
such a good show. A bummer that it got canceled because I feel like it had a lot more legs to it.
Me too.
But yeah, it was super fun. I basically my first ever role. I basically just died. um, I got this like Alka-Seltzer pill in my mouth, and I just foamed at the mouth. I'm pretty sure I was one of these aliens that was taken over, and I convulsed on the ground, and it was like the beginning of the episode. So yeah.
And for that, I'm assuming you actually, because you've been doing it for a while now, you must have fell in love with acting and you knew that was the path for you, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because there's been so many instances in my life where I've veered out of acting, but it keeps bringing me back. Like I went to USC, I studied business and film because I wanted to potentially get a corporate job, still potentially become an agent. But throughout college, I still auditioned and did all that. But when I graduated, I worked at a talent agency for about 6 months, and I realized after seeing all these breakdowns come through, I just kept having FOMO because I was like, like I should be going out for that. Or, I keep getting inspired watching shows and movies and seeing what other actors are doing. And I decided to pivot away from that and back into acting. So,
Well, that
yeah,
gives you a very interesting perspective because a lot of actors don't really know the agency side of things, whether it's managers,
sure.
agents, and then you get into the executive of studios,
Yep.
public relations. So, do you feel that has given you a leg up?
I think so. I think having an understanding of the management side of things, and also in college, I interned at a bunch of casting offices as well. I feel like I have a really good, well-rounded understanding of the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as an actor, it's tough because you don't always see what goes on behind the scenes,
No.
and you tend to submit your stuff, it goes out in the void, and you might never hear back. Actually, most of the times you never hear back. But having been on the other side of things, you realize that there's so much that goes into it. It's not always about who's the best actor. There's, you got to look at looks. You have to look at a variety of different things that are out of your control. So it helps me as an actor because I know like I can just put my best foot forward, and that's all I can really do.
Now, in this industry, rejection is a big part for
Yeah.
everybody. Not even just for actors. Would you agree that, let's say you audition, you got rejected, it has nothing to do with your acting abilities.
Yeah.
It might be because the role that they're trying to fill, you just don't fit that role, and it's nothing personal, and it has nothing to do with your acting abilities. Would you say that's a fairly accurate statement?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because there's so many actors in LA, and everyone's good to a
Yeah.
certain extent. And what really separates people, it's a lot of the intangibles, but also I think it's just really a matter of being always on top of your game and being at the right place at the right time. Because I have a lot of acting friends that, we all started at the same time. We're all in different stages in our career, but all of us have continuously put in the work, and we're all still in it because we love it. And we're all still, just hoping for that one thing that propels us forward.
Now, child actors who get started at a young age and they taste success really at a really young age. And as they get older, whatever television show or string of movies ends, and then they start finding it tough to progressed their career, you have maintained a steady upward climb. What advice would you give? Let's say you're talking to a child actor in their early teens or whatnot,
Sure.
to try to maintain that trajectory and not get caught up in the moment of the success they are experiencing right now.
Sure, yeah. So I started acting when I was 15, and I feel like by then, I was mature enough where I understood what I was doing and I was making business decisions on my own, like finding an agent, finding a manager, deciding on what acting classes to take. And I actually did hit a pretty big lull in the middle of my career, where I had just graduated college. I went down the corporate side of things for a little bit, and I realized that it wasn't for me. But jumping back into it, having taken that time off, was especially tough because, as you mentioned, when I first started out, I wouldn't say things were easy per se, but there was definitely less competition. There's
Mm-hmm.
fewer actors in that category, and I was booking a lot. And once I hit my early 20s, starting to get back into it, there's so many actors in that category, and I started to get a little down for a couple of years because I wasn't booking as much as I wanted, and it was just a lot tougher to really be booking. And I feel like what got me through that was um, like having other hobbies. I think that helped because I think the tough part about being an actor is I think there's this old school notion of acting where it's like if you're not only acting, are you really committed to the
Mm-hmm.
craft? And
Yeah.
I don't believe in that because I feel like acting is really about bringing experiences to characters, and I feel like being well-rounded as a person by having other hobbies, other passions really helps you as an actor.
Yeah.
So I feel like once I took that pressure off myself and really started remembering why I was doing it, because I think when I went to the talent agency side of things, and having done all the internships, I became really business minded. I was like, okay, what business moves do I have to make in order to start booking? And it started taking the fun out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, honestly, the last couple of years have been the best for me personally, right after the pandemic, because I feel like realigned a lot of my goals. And when there was a downtime, I really started to evaluate, like, why do I want to be an actor? And at the core of it, it's really because it's just fun. Like that's why
Yeah.
so many of us started in the first place. It's just a great way to, be someone you're not, great way to explore new things. And um, once I was able to really hone in on that, I feel like I've had a lot more success.
Also, looking at your resume, it looks like since, and you probably may attribute this to having the corporate background, but you knew, like, this is just from reading your resume, which moves to make. You've done a lot of voiceover work. And that's
Yeah.
just a testament to you saying, hey, you know what? I'm not going to just limit myself. Oh, if I'm not on screen, I'm not going to take this job. This is a horrible career decision. And it's really worked for you. So, for people who might be interested in voiceover work, how would you describe the job itself? Is
Yeah.
it really easy? Which I know it's not. But how would you describe doing voiceover work?
Yeah. So voiceover holds a really, really special place in my heart because, like I was mentioning, the last couple of years have been really great for me. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, there wasn't anything shooting. It was like a 2 month lull where all the productions were shut down. And I'd always had an interest in pursuing voiceover, but I never really did it because I feel like, well, there's a couple of things. A, like I didn't feel like there were going to be many opportunities for someone of my type because I kept seeing the same voiceover actors and everything. And B, I was like, that's like really tough. And also, like, it's not like really acting because I don't know many of my friends that were voiceover actors as well. It felt like a completely different craft.
Yeah.
And I kind of just dove into it. I created a demo reel. I reached out to a few agencies, and the rest is history. Like the last couple of years have been really great in the voiceover world. I've dubbed over 12 shows. I've done a
No,
few animations. The most recent one, All of Us Are Dead, has been doing
exactly.
really well.
And that's what we're going to
And
talk about. But first, before we get to that, when you started doing voiceover
yeah,
work, is it any different than actually acting? I would assume not.
Yeah, so a lot of the prep that goes into voiceover is the exact same as if you were to get an on-camera audition, because you still need to know like who's your character, who are you talking to, what are the relationships, and if anything in voice acting, I think part of it's even tougher because you don't get um like you don't get the visuals of it.
Yeah.
It's all in the voice, so there has to be a lot of nuance and texture in your performance. Um, so in that aspect, it's harder because you really have to let that show through your voice only. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
anything else like facial expressions or things like that. But the one thing I love about voiceover is like right now I'm actually in my voiceover booth. I kind of created it in my own closet with like acoustic foam, moving blankets, and all that. But for auditions, I just roll out of bed in my pajamas. I come in here, I read off the screen. I don't need to memorize anything.
Mm-hmm.
All the work is involved still, but you don't have to have that pressure of being completely off book.
Exactly. Now let's talk about All of Us Are Dead, the
Sure.
hugely, wildly popular Netflix series that just got
Yeah.
released recently. You do the voiceover for
Yep.
one of the main leads. First off, let's talk about Korea and horror,
Yeah.
Asia and horror. Now, Korea makes some amazing horror movies. They
Yep.
make great movies in general, but they love their zombies.
Yeah.
Um, as a cultural thing, what is it in Korea and zombies where I don't even know how to phrase this? They make such damn good movies based on
Yeah.
zombies. What do you attribute that to?
I don't know because like as a fan, I love Korean content too, especially the zombie genre. I feel like they take so many great things from other cultures, but really spin it into their own. Like the whole idea of like, Train to Busan was such a good movie, and um, even like things like, Old Boy, Snowpiercer, things that
Yeah.
are like zombie adjacent, everything's so high octane, which I love because everything's always just like always on your feet. It's always going, and you're always as an audience member just you're so engrossed in everything going on. So I don't know what it is about like Korea specifically, but they do such a good job also with the characters and the relationships, because you really feel for all the characters and all their individual journeys too. It's not just about, the zombies or whatever it is. You're actually fully invested in the characters and the story as
Absolutely.
well.
Now, when I watched All of Us Are Dead, it depends. When I'm watching a foreign film, I sometimes watch subtitles,
Yep.
sometimes I dub it. Not even knowing you were coming on this show, All of Us Are Dead, I dubbed it. Okay? And, so here you are, you're doing the voiceover work. Uh, you have to put yourself in these characters' crazy situation.
Yep.
We have students in a school trapped, surrounded by zombies. They're young, and when everything hits the fan, they want their parents, They act, when everything is fine, they want to
Yep.
be all independent, but when the shit hits the fan,
Yeah.
where's my mom and dad?
Yeah.
How do you mentally put yourself in the position without having the visuals, like you said earlier, and you guys did, not only you but everybody else who did the voiceover work did a brilliant job, and put yourself in that mind frame.
Yeah. So I can kind of talk about the audition process and then the process of actually doing the dubbing.
Yeah.
So the audition process is you get a set of sides. It's usually confidential. You don't know what it's for, and you just really get your own lines. And you have to create the circumstances in your head based off of what you have in front of you. So I didn't even really know it was a zombie show when I was doing the audition. I was like, oh, well, it's like, high stress. Like, obviously, there's a lot of teen angst going on. So I really leaned into that. And then for the callback, they brought you into the studio where you actually got to see the picture for the first time. So we were able to see what exactly was going on. So I saw that my character, Chung San, was running away from these zombies, and there was a lot of yelling, because also you don't get that from the script. You're like,
Hmm.
oh, like, are they yelling? Are they more angry? You kind of just have to make those decisions. But after I booked it, I was able to get all of the episodes in advance. So I was able to watch it in Korean to fully understand, who the character was, what his relationships were to all these people. And in the studio, it's interesting because as a dubbing actor, you have to really honor the choices that the other actors make, because
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, like, it's their performance. We're really just supplementing it the best that we can.
Yeah.
And it's tough because you have to not only do that, but make it your own as well and make it believable.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, there's that technical aspect where you have to be in time with the lips.
Yeah.
So it's almost like karaoke, where you watch the scene unfold in front of you and you get these words that fly across the screen, and you have to say it with that same intent, make it believable, but in time. So it's something that I've been able to really master over the last, dozen or so dubs that I've done. But the first few are definitely tricky. It's definitely a hard skill to pick up.
I can imagine. Were you and the other voiceover actors all in the same studio, or did they record you guys separately?
Yeah, so they recorded us all separately, mainly for technical reasons, because if we're all in the same booth trying to talk over each other, the audio gets all wonky.
Mm-hmm.
So we all had to dub it separately. And it's funny because you look at the credits at the end and it's a lot of the same actors that have been in previous series together.
Yeah.
So I did this other one called Sweet Home about a year ago, which is very similar. It's not zombies, but it's monsters. And there were about 4 people on All of Us Are Dead that were also on Sweet Home. And we've all kind of just reached out to each other on Twitter being like, hey, like, recognize your voice, like, good to work with you again. Haven't met you before, but I did meet the lead girl who played Anjo, Victoria Grace,
Mm-hmm.
last week in person for the first time,
Nice.
and it was interesting because it's like I felt like I knew her because I know her voice, but I hadn't met her before, and I had
Mm-hmm.
seen her performance as Anjo in the show. So it's just fascinating, the world of dubbing, because like I said, like you don't see anyone in the booth.
And when it comes to dubbing, does the studio, in this case Netflix, are they the ones that do the translation, or you who are bilingual, do you sort of add your own and make it more real, for lack of a better
Yeah,
term, more realistic?
sure. Yeah. So how the process works is there's someone who takes the literal translation of the Korean words, and then that person hands it off to an adapter who then makes it more um it makes it flow better in the English language.
Yeah, gotcha.
And then after that, we as actors, we do the words in sync, like the karaoke that I mentioned. Sometimes you might be 1 or 2 syllables long or short. So it's a collaborative process in the booth with you and the director and the engineer to be like, all right, like, what words can we add in here, like filler words, or what can we remove to make the timing work better?
Yeah,
So it's all this collaborative process that has a lot of people involved behind the scenes that
absolutely.
most people don't hear about.
Now, you have worked with a lot of major studios, FX, Netflix. In regards to Netflix, I think it's a great company. I collaborate a lot with them. What were your impressions with Netflix and their professionalism and how they handled everything?
Yeah, I've done I think over 10 dubbed projects with Netflix now, and every time it's been amazing. I've worked with all different studios because Netflix also has different partners they work with
Yeah,
for all these dubs. For All of Us Are Dead, that was Horseless Cowboy and Igloo, and I've worked with them about 10 times, and they've all been great. Everyone's super nice, and it's super collaborative, and um, it's great because, like I mentioned, I can just roll in my sweatpants and hoodie, do the work, go home, and it takes anywhere from 2 to 4 hours a day.
yeah.
So yeah, it's been a really fun process, and I have a few other shows with Netflix coming out in the next few months that can't talk about quite yet, but they just have so much content from Asia coming over to the US that they're dubbing, which I think is really awesome.
You do. I want to slightly talk about at least one of the projects that you have coming up listed. What is it? The Last Summer of Nathan Lee.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
play Nathan Lee.
I do.
Uh,
Yes.
can you give us any info on that or no?
Sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The movie actually just finished last week. The director is submitting it to different film festivals. We actually just submitted it to Cannes today. So the movie itself is a coming of age teen comedy about my character Nathan, who is diagnosed with brain cancer and he only has a few months to live. And the movie's interesting in that it's shot found footage from the perspective of his best friend Dash, who's documenting his final days. And it's a really cute coming of age teen comedy where everyone learns about themselves through the process, and we kind of see the last days of Nathan through Dash's lens.
And I assume you are the lead role, correct?
I am, yes, I am Nathan. Yep. I am the person diagnosed with brain cancer.
Is this your first lead in a feature film?
Yeah, it is. It's exciting. I've done a lot of supporting roles throughout my career. I've done a lot of dubbed leads, but in terms of on camera, yes, this is my first true lead.
So, what was the experience like going from supporting member to a lead?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. As a lead, I feel like there is a lot of pressure to carry a movie, but at the same time, I had a really wonderful supporting cast of actors around me. And what was really great about this movie in particular was because it was shot found footage, a lot of our scenes were done in one take. So there would be 3 to 5 minute scenes where, the camera was rolling and we just all played off each other. And the beauty of this project was the writer gave us really great words to work with, but he was also very open to us improvising a little bit here or there to make it more real. So it honestly just felt like summer camp. Like we were all just putting on a play and just having fun with each other. So yeah, I'm really excited for the movie to come out, and I
Yeah, me
think,
too.
yeah,
It
it's gonna be
sounds like
great.
a lot of fun.
Yeah,
So, in regards to the horror genre, you've done quite a
yeah,
bit of horror. All of
yeah,
Us Are Dead is obviously horror.
sure.
Would you consider yourself a horror fan?
Yeah, it's funny. So I didn't really touch on this before, but after I stopped with all the agenting world stuff, I actually dove into the world of film marketing. So I was still acting, but doing film marketing on the side. So one of my favorite companies that I did film marketing for was Blumhouse.
Oh,
So before I worked for Blumhouse, specifically Blumhouse Tilt, which was their indie arm that really got the hand-me-down Universal movies. Like we had movies like The Belko Experiment, Incarnate, Darkness, Upgrade, and yeah. So before I worked for BH Tilt, I was pretty scared with horror movies just because I had a really traumatic experience when I was 4 years old. My dad took me to watch The Mummy in theaters, and there was that scene of the beetle crawling through the guy's chest, and it like scarred me for so many years. And through working with Blumhouse, I had to watch movies that were in the horror genre, so I had to slowly get back into it. But now I love horror. I feel like it's such a great place to talk about social issues. Like everything Jordan Peele's doing is
it
incredible.
is.
I can't wait for Nope. Like that
Hmm.
trailer was so wacky, and I have no idea what it's going to be about, but I'm sure it's going to be amazing.
Now,
Um,
we got to talk about you played a role in American Horror Stories, which is
yes.
the spin-off of the popular season anthology show American Horror Story. You were in
Yeah.
American Horror Stories. You play the brother
Yes. Yep.
of one of the murder victims who gets trapped in the murder house. What
Yeah.
was it like coming into the American Horror Story universe?
Yeah. It was really great, especially because I had already seen some episodes of American Horror Story, and it's such a popular show and so big within the horror audience that it was just a really big honor to be part of that community. Especially, Ryan Murphy works on a million shows, so just even being on his radar was really awesome. But in terms of shooting the actual episodes, it was really great because I got to meet Valerie Liu, who plays my sister in the show.
Mhm.
Uh, we coincidentally found out that we actually have the same manager, so we
Wow.
bonded over that, and we're actually good friends now outside the show. But yeah, everyone on the show is super awesome. I was lucky enough to be in 2 episodes of that,
Hmm.
and hopefully more if the series comes back. But yeah,
I
it's
definitely,
a
I
great
mean, it's,
experience.
stories is an anthology per episode. It's a,
Yep.
so it changes every episode. You got to be in the infamous Murder House ones.
Yeah.
Uh, tell us, for us that the information out there is kind of confusing. Uh, is there any significance to that building? Is it an actual building on a regular block in LA? What's the story behind that place?
Yeah, I don't know the complete story, but I do know that when we shot at the murder house, it is an actual house. It's by Koreatown. Um, and I believe actually I went to a murder mystery dinner there like 3 years ago as part of some corporate like company team building event. So I know they hold events there, but it is an actual house there. It's not just the set. It's in this neighborhood close to Koreatown. So when we were shooting, there were a ton of people just walking by, taking pictures, sitting across from the murder house, like just seeing what was going on.
I can imagine what kind of a tourist attraction that
Yeah,
place is right now. That's just
yeah.
crazy. So moving forward in your career, obviously the acting, like I said, it's on an upward scale. I think you're gonna, the best is still yet to come for you.
Thank you. I
Do you
appreciate it.
have any interest down the line, whether it's in corporate or directing, producing, and whatnot?
Yeah. Um, acting really is my passion. I would love to be able to, create content for, Asian American audiences because there really isn't that type of uh, content out there. Like
No.
what Jordan Peele has done within the horror community for the African American audience, I think it'd be really great to do something for the Asian American audiences. And I've been mulling these scripts in my head and I've been workshopping them with a few friends, but I would love to create some sort of social commentary horror within that community. But TBD, we'll see.
Now, do you know if in Korea, as far as getting financing for films done over there that eventually find their way here in the United States, do you have any idea of how that works? Is the Korean government very supportive of filmmakers and whatnot?
I'm actually not sure. But I do know like specifically for like Netflix in particular, I believe they invested like I think it was like $10 billion or something in
Wow.
Korean content in the next few years. That's why you're seeing so much come out of there between like All of Us Are Dead and Hellbound and Squid Game.
Yep.
There's just so much coming out of there. So I just know there's a lot of foreign investment in Korea. I don't know how much investment from Korea there is to then
And you gotta
globalize Korean content.
and you gotta tip your hat to Netflix, not just for Korea. They really go out around the globe and just
Oh yeah.
find great content. For example, like Indonesia,
Mm,
they make some great horror films out of it. There's just great
yeah.
horror films that come out from all over the world. Harrison, I want to thank you so much for coming on here and just sharing your experiences with us. Any final thoughts you want to share before we go?
No, I just really appreciate you having me on the show. I appreciate the kind words, and I look forward to seeing future guests on your show.
And I definitely looking forward to seeing more of you on American Horror Stories. I think
Yeah.
there's definitely a story there to be told. So I want to thank our audience who's tuned in tonight. I want to thank Harrison Zhu, who was our guest. Uh, Everybody stay safe. On behalf of Harrison and myself, till next time, stay walking. Good night,
Nope.
everybody.